So this is a little monsoon. Okay, so last year, did you guys have a lot of rain last year in this area in the summer? No? Okay. Well, last year we had a situation where we had really, really warm water. These are water temperatures in the Pacific Ocean. So here's Mexico, here's Baja California, and we're right here. And so we had really warm water on the coast of Mexico, and that really warm water helped spawn a whole bunch of tropical Pacific hurricanes in the eastern Pacific. And so we had a hurricane. In this particular picture, we had 3 at once. Tropical storms or hurricanes. These all happen to be tropical storms at the moment. But these are areas that are going to potentially become hurricanes, and there's a lot of moisture associated with these. And so remember in the summer I said the circulation goes this way? So basically all this moisture, these things came right up the coast and then headed out. When they came up here, all this moisture got sucked into the monsoon pattern. So we had really, really, really heavy rain in a bunch of places in Arizona. A few of them got turned off really soon. They started down here and then they immediately headed off toward Hawaii. So we didn't get as much moisture from those. But all the ones that came up here, we got a lot of moisture from them. And starting in July, they started creating humongous flood issues that were happening. And this was over by Quartzsite, over by the California border. This is one of them that happened, one of the first ones that happened in the Phoenix area over South Mountain. And this storm sat like this. This is rain. And it rained like this for an hour and a half. It dropped 3 1/3 inches of rain in an hour and a half. And there was flooding, and cars were washed away, and houses had mud in them, and swimming pools had mud, and it was hideous. This is what the CoCoRaHS network had for that day. So this 3.55 inches was at that location where that was my house. That was my gauge that reported this. And then the nearest one, little ways away, was about 3/4 of an inch less than that, and all these people were a whole bunch less than that. So this was a very localized storm that if we didn't have these 2 gauges, we wouldn't have had any idea that much rain had fallen. A week later, this is some CoCoRaHS plus the flood control district of Maricopa County gauges. So we have 0.2, 0.16, this was almost an inch. And then up here in red, we have 1 inch to 1.5 inches. And then up here in New River, we have 4 inches, 4.76, 4.8. It was huge. It was a bigger set of storms, but still, a whole bunch of the valley hardly got anything. And this created huge amounts of flooding on Skunk Creek and a bunch of areas in New River. And this was what Interstate 17 looked like trying to come down into Phoenix. People couldn't even get on the freeway because there was a river between their access road and the freeway. So that was pretty significant. And then in September 8th, we had another storm that covered the entire valley, and all these used that moisture from those tropical storms. And this one closed Interstate 10, which is the first time it had ever been closed. People were on it trying to get to work, and then a whole bunch of them got stranded and had to be rescued out of their cars. So it got to be pretty exciting. And then this is a bridge going over a wash, and it's a good 30 feet down to the bottom, but the water's all the way up to the bridge, right in Scottsdale. And then this is kind of some values. So the green is what we would normally have in the monsoon, and the blue is what we had last year in all these cities. So Wickenburg had 10 inches in the monsoon. They normally get almost 5. Youngtown had 8 inches. Mesa had a bunch. Every one of these places had a whole bunch more than they would typically get. And southern Arizona was worse. And I didn't get all of the values for the northern Arizona because the Flagstaff office didn't make the same kind of a chart for me. But this year we have this. This came from the Flagstaff office, and this was how much precipitation that we had for a bunch of different places this summer. And so we see Jerome was the 55th wettest. Not a big deal. It wasn't a big record setter. But we had some places like Belmont up by Flagstaff that was the 6th driest, and then Alpine was the 8th wettest, and here's one of my favorites, Prescott. Okay, so Prescott at the water plant had the 16th driest, and Prescott Airport was the 22nd wettest. So that's why we need all these gauges. So we really want to have more and more gauges, and so we can get better information on what's going on. So this is kind of the difference between last year's monsoon. I thought because we still have that warm water off the coast that this summer was going to be the same as last summer. And I was completely wrong. It's not even close. So this is all the precipitation we had last year as a percentage of normal. So essentially, last year we had 200 to 400% of the normal amount of precipitation. That's like 2 to 4 times what we would normally expect to get in all these purple places, right? And Yavapai County was one of the big winners. So this year is totally different. So this year we had some places in Graham County and some places in Navajo and Coconino counties that were much wetter than average. And then that big flood up there at the Utah border, did you guys see about that? The flash flood came through Colorado City and washed 2 vans of kids and people away, and there was 18 people killed. That was just one storm was responsible for pretty much most of that up there. And then Yavapai County here, you're looking at only 50 to 75% or 70% or so of what you would normally get. So we were, a lot of central Arizona was a lot drier this year than we were last year. This was the total monsoon rainfall for the whole season from the Flagstaff Weather Service office. So all these white ones are up here over 12 inches, and the dark reds and stuff are 10 to 12 inches. So the White Mountains did okay, Southern Arizona did okay. We were pretty much around 5 to 6 inches in much of this area, Prescott and most of Yavapai County. And then when we look at how was that compared to what we usually have, we were around normal in all these white areas. So in the area we're in right now, we're just about what we would normally expect. But a little south of Prescott and stuff, it was drier than average. And then here's those spots that were wetter than average all around here. And so these are a couple of events that kind of show how spotty and different these rain events were. So here's one where they got a bullseye 1.69 inches, and these guys had less than a ½ inch nearby. This guy was kind of wet. And then there were some places where we had down in this neighborhood of a ½ inch to maybe an inch, whole places with 2 inches or more. This early storm in July was one of those that pulled in all that tropical moisture. And Prescott got pounded. They got 2.67 inches. One place got 2.79 inches in the course of a couple of hours. And so they had some significant flooding that went on. Same day, that same storm had dumped a bunch of precipitation in Wickenburg and led to huge amounts of flooding in Wickenburg and stuff. And you guys have seen some of those things where Sedona gets flooded and Oak Creek, not your school, but Oak Creek down in Sedona just gets pounded. So that's why we want to have more of these gauges, because we really want to know how much rain fell to cause the kind of flooding that we're seeing. And I think we're just about done. Yeah, and here's another event, August 26th. So we had 1.38, 1.51. So you had some serious rain events. Problem is, your summer isn't like uniform rain events through the whole course of the summer. It's like hardly anything and then bam, humongous event. And I think that's just about it. Yeah, that'll be just about it, yeah. Okay, and then this was at the very beginning of the season, that July 19 storm. This was where the Interstate 10 bridge over, just in California, near Needles and Blythe, collapsed because they had so much water coming down this that it washed out the supports on the bridge, and the interstate had to be closed for like a week and a half. So that's all I have.